Hello everyone, welcome back to Functional Spirituality with Ava Rani. Today I want to answer a question: what is a TE session, or what is a therapeutic embodiment session? So you may have seen our trainings about this. This question has been coming up a lot because we're about to start a training. And really what people want to know is what actually happens inside a therapeutic embodiment session. So therapeutic embodiment is also a framework for understanding how embodiment practices can be used to heal complex trauma. So the therapeutic embodiment session itself, it's a practice for healing complex trauma. Complex trauma is stress that accumulates inside of our nervous system and affects our capacity. So it's a practice that we can do for ourselves, and it's also a framework and a theory that we can learn the ins and outs, the psychoeducation and a philosophy about how we can resolve complex trauma inside of our system using a new paradigm of healing. So there's definitely a lot of material out there about complex trauma and about healing, and the therapeutic embodiment approach very much looks at the shortfalls of that approach. The reason that our care-based and healing industries are characterized by burnout. So they're filled with burned out people whose most passionate desire is to care for people and to heal. So why would that industry be filled with burnout, be filled with dysfunction and have so many issues? So the therapeutic embodiment approach definitely looks at what is inherently wrong, and in fact overcoming that brings us the most simple and effective form of healing, a connection and heartfulness based form of healing. So a TE session, when we're actually practicing it as a modality, it pretty much looks like a yin class from the outside. So if you've ever seen yin yoga or restorative yoga, it's like a slow, meditative, floor-based practice that is focusing on addressing the fascia and the connective tissue of the body. And also its focus is to create a deep sense of relaxation and restoration for the tissues of the body, the joints and connective tissues. The TE practice kind of looks like a yin class from the outside, slow, meditative, restorative kind of practice. But inside it, it's based around the principles of trauma resolution, somatic healing, and also interoceptive reflection. So what that means is that it's incorporating both a bottom-up and a top-down approach for healing inside one restorative kind of session. So there's a special kind of reflection that we're doing with our minds that is helping us to meet the material of our system. And that material is the physical sensations, the energy, the emotions, and also the thoughts as well, and the stories. So we're fully available and meeting our nervous system on all levels in a TE session. So the practice is using tools, using special kinds of questions we ask, and special ways of breathing, and special ways of turning attention, and special ways of moving that help us to meet our material in a way that helps incomplete material inside of us to resolve. So it's based on this framework of a new paradigm of trauma resolution woven through like a relaxing, restorative practice. And it could be, as short as 15 minutes, but usually the practice is guided between a 30-minute and a 50-minute kind of practice. And it can be extended longer for sure. And also, the therapeutic embodiment practice can be woven into other modalities. So it can be woven into a fast vinyasa or yoga practice. It can be woven into a breathwork practice. It can be woven into a dance, painting, naturopathy, any other practices or modalities can have the TE practice and definitely the principles woven into it. So it's very much more a model than like a standalone modality that, you kind of learn in isolation. It's really a model of healing that you can weave into your existing modalities and practices and offerings. So, yeah, a little bit more. What can I say about it? It always starts with a kind of introduction, so it follows trauma-informed principles according to, our approach here. So one of them is to just let people know what's expected, even if people have done the practice a million times, just to start with a little conversation, start with a warm relational experience of someone kindly, curiously, gently explaining what's going to happen in like a kind of conversational way. And then, of course, it's initiated with a drop-in. So the idea, like if I could summarize the course for you in the TE framework and simplify it, the priority is really slowness. Slowness leads to relaxation or triggers or characterizes a state of relaxation. When we feel relaxed and slow, and there's actually a couple of practices, not just slowness, that trigger relaxation. So they're all incorporated in the drop-in. So slowness, inwardness, gentle movement, slow, deeper breaths, offering a couple of triggers to bring about a state of relaxation. Once we're relaxed, dropped in, and able to connect with what's inside of us, so below the surface, we can come into a place of attunement. So that's a place of listening and understanding and meeting and connection for what's inside of us. And we use attunement to meet the material and understand our layers in a way that helps them then to complete themselves. So we're looking for slowness to trigger relaxation, to allow us to cultivate attunement, and from there to foster the sense of completion, which is the resolution of material inside of our system that needs to be completed. And this is based around the idea that we are culturized, or we're cultured. We are living in a society, living within a system and a culture that is living on the surface of our experience. So we're living on the most superficial layer. We're living from the most superficial layer of our nervous system. We're living from the surface of our senses. We're living from the surface of our brain and the conscious mind, from the tip of the iceberg. And that's the part of our nervous system that is characterized by speediness, reactivity, and also fear. So it helps us to respond really quickly to anything that might threaten our survival. And unfortunately, we're living in and from that place in an imbalanced way. And what slowness and relaxation and inwardness and therapeutic movement can bring is a slowing down and a dropping down from that surface of our nervous system and the surface of our experience into the rest of us, into the other 90% of our system, our senses, our emotions, our preferences, our needs, our desires, not just the ones that our mind is telling us a story about, because that's the mind's job, is to tell us a story about what's going on, the best guess, the best assumption, the quickest, fastest, best guess at what's going on and what we need and what we feel. Our mind tells us a story about that, and it tries to do it with as much accuracy as possible. It's different from feeling what we think and what we need and what we feel and what we want, feeling that directly by connecting to our system directly. So without that slowness and relaxation, we might be on the surface of our healing journey. We might be on the surface of attunement. And if we can just drop in deeply in a really sustainable way, There's so much healing that can be simply and effortlessly accessed without the fear of touching something that's too painful, without the fear of not being able to handle it or not being able to do it, or, it being too big. It's just right. It's exactly what's there and exactly what needs to be felt, exactly what's needed is effortlessly revealed to us in a more slower and contained approach that's based on how can we get attunement, how can we feel connected to ourselves. And luckily, there is a biology behind that. There's a science, there's a neuroscience, neurobiology, whatever you want to call it. There's a process behind that our nervous system, the human nervous system, responds to that reflects the completion and regenerative mode of our nervous system, the parasympathetic mode, the part of our nervous system that's responsible for integrating, cleaning up, processing, and healing. There are qualities of that process that we can trigger and we can embody and we can adopt. So it might still, I'm feeling as I wrap up this episode that it might actually still sound quite abstract. I hope it's not too abstract. I'd pop a link in the show notes to our most recent free workshop that we ran that really breaks down this process in detail. And I just wanted to give a little bit extra information for those who are asking about what does a therapeutic embodiment session actually look like. So I hope that makes sense for you. If you have any questions, of course, as always, please reach out. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thank you for tuning in to the Functional Spirituality Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you subscribe by pressing the plus button on iTunes or the following button on Spotify. This is going to ensure that this resource is available and top of mind when you most need it. So please subscribe now.